Hello, everybody. Welcome back to High Vibin' It. Thanks for being here. I'm Kelsey Aida, one of your co-hosts. I'm here with Lindsay Robinson, my bestie and co-host. And today we have a very special guest, Miss Ruby Fremon. And she is somebody who helps people to embody their leadership and to basically, I would call you almost like a coach for coaches, because you help people to really step into their power in the space of leading, and she's a leadership guide. So today we're going to kind of dive into a conversation that surrounds the topic of leadership, embodiment, and how can we do that more, and how can we do that from a really authentic and empowered space. So thanks for being here, Ruby.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you became started in this work, because I know from personal experience and talking to so many leaders that usually the contrast in our lives is what inspires us to birth these new creations and desires, and we want to help people with the things that we've helped ourselves to do. So is there a backstory into why you do all this?
There is, but I always ask, like, how much time do you have? Because I could give
Well,
you
give
the
us the cliff
peanut.
notes.
Yeah, I'll give you the cliff notes. So I'm a former addict, and I worked in the nightlife industry for years, and was in a cycle of abusive relationships, and was raised in a culture where women were not encouraged to speak our truths or to use our voices. And so all of that compounded on top of each other into my 20s, when I experienced my first divorce and dove like head first into a really terrible life-changing cycle of addiction, which took me on a path of coming face to face with the things that I had been denying for so long. The drug addiction and the alcohol was really just a way for me to hide my pain, of not being able to express myself, of not feeling safe to speak my truth, of not feeling safe to be me in a world where it felt like everyone was working against me and did not want me to be me. That all led me to 2012, which was really when I hit the bottom of the bottom, because I was hovering at rock bottom for a long time. And that was when I really came face to face with the fact that I had created this life for myself. There was no one who was forcing me to do drugs or drink alcohol. No one was forcing me into abusive relationships. No one was forcing me to keep quiet. There was just this programming that was bestowed upon me. And I continued to feed that cycle within myself. I continued to feed that narrative. And so 2012 really sparked the beginning of my own journey in uncovering my potency and uncovering my voice and understanding my truth and understanding what's really important to me. And through that journey, I've continued to get to know more and more about who I am as a person, as a human being, what I have to really offer, what my voice actually sounds like, what it means to be fully expressed as me and not these false identities that I've been wearing for far too long. And it's just a journey that continues to unfold. And it's one that I love to take my clients on, because I feel that nowadays, now more than ever, actually, like with 2020 being what it is, now more than ever, it's so much more important to speak our truths. And yet the fear is real. You know, people are being shamed publicly for speaking their truth. People are being deleted, censored, ridiculed, judged, hated, unfollowed for speaking their truth, right? And it's something that people are legitimately scared of due to their programming. And so I direct this work towards leaders, whether they're entrepreneurs or CEOs in companies. It doesn't matter. The challenge is always there. The challenge of, do I speak my truth? Do I show up in my potency? Do I show up as the fullest expression of who I am at the risk of ... And it's a journey that I continue to be on myself as well. I think it's a lifelong journey of really uncovering who we are and embodying all those pieces of us.
Yeah, that was really beautifully said. I like the part where you ended with embodying all of the pieces, because I think when we talk about embodiment, it's like, how can you embody parts of you that you've never even met before? Like, you have to do some soul searching and getting to know yourself in order to be able to be fully expressive, because there's probably parts of us in the background that have never even been heard by ourselves.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can't embody what you don't know. You can't
Right.
embody what you don't see. You can't embody what you're afraid to face. You can't. And so a lot of the times people are unconsciously embodying the narratives that they've been told. They're unconsciously embodying the false identities that they've constructed and may not even be aware of, right? They're wearing different clothes. It's like putting on an outfit that's not yours and wearing that all day. It feels weird. It feels off. There's something that doesn't feel right about it. And until you have the willingness, the courage, the consciousness to actually face those parts of yourself, there's no way in hell that you're ever going to be able to embody it or be it or express it.
Yeah. So, how would you recommend somebody starts to kind of do a little digging around to find some parts that are maybe hiding in the shadows so that they can be a more full embodiment of all of themselves?
Yeah, I mean, first, you got to really acknowledge who you're being now. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss. Like, they want to go straight into the, okay, I want to change. I want to be this thing. I want to do this thing. And it's like, but who are you being right now? Because you need to accept who you're being. You need to accept how you're showing up. And you need to accept that all of this has been your choice, whether it's been a conscious or an unconscious choice. Like, you've chosen to show up in these ways. What's happened to you, that's not your fault, but how you're reacting to it and responding to it, that's where you have the power to create change. So the first thing is like really acknowledging where you're at, who you're being, and understanding that, and even like writing that out. Who am I being today?
Mm.
How do I show up? What does my presence say about me? And I don't mean the picture perfect Instagram filtered presence. I mean like your presence when people meet you. How do you show up in front of people? And then you can go into the, well, who is it that is yearning to come out? Because there's always that piece of us that we're like, well, if only this didn't matter, then I could show up more like this. If only I wasn't going to be judged, I would show up and speak my truth. If only I wasn't going to be hated, I would show up and wear these outfits that I want to wear, or I would do these things that I want to do, or talk about the things that I really want to talk about. So understanding what is the desire? What is the desire that you yourself are yearning to bring to the table? Because you're not going to go from, I don't know who I am, to I know who I am. That's not an overnight process. It's an uncovering. I always say it's uncovering because you're peeling back the layers. And the more that you peel back these layers, the more you start to get to know yourself. But it all starts with acknowledging who you're being today.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
think it's a great place to start in reality, because I think a lot of the personal empowerment space is like, visualize your perfect life and create it all in your mind. But it's like, you can only change and create change from exactly where you are right now. So first you have to assess, what does my reality look like? How am I showing up? What is going on right now? And that's where all your power is. And I'm glad that you like kind of rewind and went back to that step, because a lot of people do miss it, like how you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't change what we're afraid to confront, And so if you're denying pieces of you, if you're repressing pieces of you, if you're turning a blind eye to how you're actually showing up and not owning your shit, then there's no way that you're going to be able to change, right? And what you mentioned about the visualizations and like visualize your life, and yeah, when you do that, like, first of all, people don't know what they want. So you're going to visualize a vision that's been projected upon you, or carry a definition of success that's been projected upon you, right? Like, you get to redefine all these things for yourself so you can start to design a life, design your leadership, design your movement so it aligns with you, like the true you, the essence of you, the fullest expression of you, the embodied you, the potent you.
Right. It's like, is this what I actually want, or is this what society says is going to make me feel better?
Exactly.
Yeah. Lindsay,
That's
I feel like
awesome.
you're waiting to say a question, so I'm going to let you go
Well,
ahead.
no, when I want to give space and really take in everything you're saying. And one of the things that you said in the beginning that I really loved, if we could circle back for a second, is when you said the beliefs, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but the beliefs and like patterns that were bestowed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
I love that to death, because we as a society don't think that far. We're like, this is who I am, this is how I think, there's nothing I can do about it, so let me just like live this cycle. And of course this is all happening unconsciously, but you, as you so eloquently put, like really made a decision, like, no, I'm not going to just handle things and deal with it the way that it was placed onto me. I'm going to choose better, and each and every day it's a choice to just decide differently and see what happens. You've tried this is a thing, you've tried it for years. What happens if I now try this? Or what happens if I start to not be afraid of what people think, or start doing it anyway, even though I might be afraid of judgment? And that's a hard thing for people, especially when we've been conditioned that other people's opinions mean so much, especially now in the climate that we're living. So I love that you brought light to the fact that, yeah, things were placed onto you that aren't yours. You've probably been carrying things for a long time that don't necessarily belong to you. And it becomes a decision of like, do I want to carry this for another day, or do I want to decide differently? Which is a huge responsibility, to know that everything that's happened to you till this moment has been your doing. It's a huge responsibility and a huge truth to have like land on you, because you get to take credit for all the good things, but you also have to take a look and see where things will be different from now on based on the decisions you've made in the past. You know what I mean? So I love that you said that it was like, yeah, things happen. It's not my fault, but I also want to take responsibility from this day forward. You know what I mean?
So
that was
important.
Cool. I love that. There's been so much that's been said so far in the episode that I feel like needs a spotlight, but I think people can just rewind and listen again, because I'm definitely going to do that. And I don't always do that. There's just been so much just in these first few minutes that I'm like, oh, I need to hear that again.
Yeah, I love that you said that it's not your fault, but if you want to create your life consciously, then it is your responsibility to do what it takes to find your fullest expression. And what would you say to people who are scared to live in their full embodiment because of what other people think? I already know what I would say to them because I've worked through this myself, but what advice would you give to someone who has that particular fear? Because I feel like a lot of people let that get in the way.
Yeah, a lot of people let the fear of what other people think get in the way of, standing in your truth, taking a stand for what you believe in, being your embodied, potent self. And what I would say to them is there's a risk either way. Which risk do you want to take?
Right.
Do you want to take the risk of being this false identity your entire life and feeling the way that you're feeling right now? Or do you want to risk being judged for the freedom that comes with being your fully expressed self? I mean, there's going to be a risk either way.
I love that. That's kind of like when you say like no decision is a decision, like just going along with your life is a decision. So why not, figure it out? I love that. Either way, it's a risk. You might as well try to feel better.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. And no matter what you do, not everybody's going to like you or agree with you or respect you anyway. So it's just a matter of, you might as well live your truth that feels good to you, because no matter which way you go, there's no way to get everyone to like you. And if everybody does like you and you're not turning heads or creating some kind of like polarization, I feel like that's a good sign that you're not being fully authentically expressed enough. Because I feel like when people are very expressive of their own personal truth, it can be very polarizing in a good way, where it's like the people who resonate with that message are like, yes, give me more, and the people who don't are like, what?
Who is this person? Yeah,
and I think the times that we're living in right now too, it's important to touch on this, like with the polarities that are being shown right now. It's also very, very important to understand that there's a depth to polarities, and it's not about being one way or another. Like, I cannot say this enough, because I think there's way too many marketing coaches and all that shit out there that's
Yeah.
telling you to be polarizing. Otherwise, if you're not polarizing, you're not making a difference. You're not speaking your truth, but that's also false because there's a big spectrum of gray in the middle.
Right.
And that's the place where actually more people are afraid to be in. It's the place of uncertainty. It's the place of not knowing. It's the place of being humble enough to share that you don't know. And that's the place that I like to play in, and the place that I like for my clients to play in too, because that's where you start to uncover what actually means something to you. So rather than striving to be polarizing or striving for polarities, like being in the discomfort of the gray,
Yes.
being in the discomfort of not knowing, because there we have seen such a rise in polarizing marketing, messaging, that is actually closing conversations. And many of the people speaking from these polarizing voices are actually not really fully standing behind what they're saying. They're just saying it for the impact.
Right. Which gives no room for evolution or, self-development. You got your boots stuck in. I just pictured as like somebody's boots stuck in the mud and they refuse to like budge because of the idea of what the belief is, but not necessarily standing behind it just for the sake of standing behind it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like when you're in that gray area, there's room for discovery. Like that's where the self-discovery happens, and you can really get to decide where you stand and who you are. Just like you said, that's amazing. I like that.
Well, I like what you're saying too, because every perspective is valid, and the more perspectives you can take on, the more free your life is going to be, because you can really understand different angles of different problems and solutions and the way people feel. And especially in this day and age, like I really wish that we would be open to other people's perspectives, because that would create so much healing and unity among us, just to build the gaps between realities. Because if someone's all the way on the right and someone's all the way on the left, they're living in two different worlds. But if you can, for a few minutes, try to put yourself in their world as them, not as yourself, as that person, then you can build the bridges that really create understanding, harmony, and unity. So I like that you said that.
Well, this girl's got some gems, Kelsey. I'm just saying.
Obviously, that's why I was like, we got to get her on. So, Ruby, I'm curious about your personal practices for just embodiment or empowerment throughout the day. Like, what are some of the little things that you do every day, whether it's a morning ritual or just questions that you ask yourself, or check-ins or habits that you practice that you find really helpful in the space of embodiment?
So what I find really helpful is not having a rigid ritual or routine. And it's trusting yourself enough to select what feels right. I think the only thing that is cemented in for me is movement. I work out a lot and working out is my way of getting into my body, grounding myself. It's also a form of meditation for me. I also find that working out, strengthening my body has always been a way for me to challenge my mind. So that's like one thing that's cemented in, but everything else, it depends on how I feel, where I am in my cycle, what's happening in my life. I'll go through periods where I will be focused every morning, get up, go do breath work for 20 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes, journal. And then I'll go through a phase of that. And then I'll go through a phase of like, well, no, right now what my body needs is to sleep in, and I need to honor that. And I'll go through that phase, and I'll go through a phase of, something else. And so for me, it's like, I'll cycle through rituals, but the common thing is like, what do I need to do for me today? Like, what do I need to do for me today? And I think that if everyone were to just bring it back to the simplicity of that, you would find that you'd be able to create, quote unquote, morning rituals that actually work for you versus you're pushing it or trying to make it work. Because I think a lot of people get really disappointed with their morning rituals. Like they meditate and they end up with more anxiety, or they do breath work and they feel like they're doing it wrong and they're judging themselves and they're in a cycle of self-deprecation, all because of this morning ritual. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, what do you want to feel today? And what do you need to do to give yourself that it's as simple as that. And so for me, it changes up all the time.
I like that.
I will say though, I don't schedule calls. Like I think the earliest my calls will ever be are 10:30 in the morning. But I usually keep my mornings wide and free and open so I can do whatever I want with that time.
Hey there, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to watch the extended version where you get the full podcast episode in a video format, just go to patreon.com/highvibe. The link is in the description. That's where you can become a supporter of the show, listen to all the episodes via video format, and each week you get extended versions of the show, meaning you get to see the pregame behind the scenes, and also you get an extended interview with whoever we're guesting, or if it's me and Lindsay, we usually pull cards for you guys, fun stuff like that. So go check it out. There's lots of cool goodies, including a free copy of my book, a free audio hypnosis from Lindsay. She's a hypnotherapist. And yeah, we just want to give you all the goods, all the content. So head over to patreon.com/highvibe to become a Patreon.
Or if you'd rather listen to the rest of this episode, head over to highvibinit.com where you'll see all the links to everywhere that it's getting streamed. Click your favorite one and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.